Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the stream. I'm looking for Jess. Are you in the stream, Jess? And then we shall continue. Let me just do a quick little thing here. I need to send somebody a link, and then we shall be ready to go. Okay, so while we're waiting, we can go through the changes I have made so far. So what I have done is I've updated all the outputs and inputs with a cube for doing our mouse overs. Okay, so the mouse overs are working a lot better. We're not getting this flickering on and off while I'm over them, so that is a plus, etc, etc. The other thing is I've not acted on it yet, but I now have I mucked about with the collision on the conveyor belts. Okay, now what I noticed was it has a horrible effect on lag. Okay, so we changed that about, and what I ended up doing was I have written a function which checks if we are colliding with anything at the point where we basically make the spline. Okay, so what I did was I line trace for collision. So what that does is take the number of points on the main points on the spline and basically draws around it, right, from point A to point B, B to C, C to D, D to E, and however many points it has. It checks each spline point, draws a line trace between the 2 points, and if we hit something, we set a temporary variable, and then we pass the temporary variable out as whether or not it has collided. Okay, now we're not acting on that yet, but we have a simple, although it is not comprehensive, collision detection system for our spline. Okay, now even if I add, in theory, what I should do here, actually, while we're at it, we'll just do this while we're here. Now, I'm not sure if this will work or not, but we shall check. But what we can actually do here is we can tell it the actors to ignore, right? And basically, we can add 2 actors, which is basically our supply actor and our end actor, right? So it's not going to collide with those 2 actors, which still gives us an issue, but at least we shall have a way of determining if we're hitting anything else. Okay, now the way this isn't going to work, or the issue that we still have, is if we travel through one of our buildings that is either the start or the end. Okay? So, with that in mind, we can take a look, and I can show you this working, right? So, we shall have a true coming up here, a true or a false, after we finish a spline of whether it actually hit something or not. Okay? So, for example, if we make it go through our landing site, right, it's obviously colliding with something, right? So when we click, you'll see it says true. Okay, now it still does build it, and that's because we aren't taking an action if it's true at the moment, which we're going to do. But that shows you that I am detecting whether the mesh goes, or sorry, the spline goes through something, right? And that says false when we just did that. Okay, and that means that we didn't hit anything, so it was okay to draw it. Now, are you there, Jess? Okay, so you'll notice that this might have an effect on our output object, but I don't think so. Yeah, that's just going to go straight through because I think I've set that to no collision anyway. But you guys can see that we are actually detecting whether or not we collide with something. Okay, so let's actually use this and see if we can do something with this. So what we can do is we can take the output and say branch okay, and if it's true we do nothing, and if it's false we let it continue. Okay, so what we can do is check this again and see how this reacts, because I'm not too sure if just cancelling this function is actually going to do what we want to do. I'll need to find out exactly where we want to do this. But this might actually be okay. So you'll see there that it's done some weird stuff. So what I'm going to do at this point is probably, if it's true, we can destroy self. Right, so destroy, and this will just basically reset it. We can get a bit more fancy Dan about it later, right? But at the moment, what we just want to do is kill our spline. Okay. So let's try that. So it won't let us do this. I mean, we could even do the kill spline and then show a message that says unable to complete conveyor or something, right? But for the moment, as long as we're not allowing it, we have got our condition for not allowing it, right? So that deletes it, and we're back to where we were. Okay, so we could have it play a sound like a or whatever, or do our thing, but the main thing is here that it's actually working, okay? So that's that part sorted. And as I said, I'm waiting for Jess to arrive in the stream. And what we shall do for the moment, well, that's interesting. So I'm guessing that we should really remove all the different parts. So that was basically going to end up drawing stuff again. So basically, during this point here, we want to say is if we go, there is a like a pending kill. Is component being destroyed, right? So we can use this or probably more apt to use in this case is to actually just say if this is valid. Okay, and then just pop it in there. So if we're in the middle of destroying stuff, then we basically stop this. So hopefully now this will get rid of all these errors. And we basically would have to do it everywhere. This is because this is on a timer that we actually draw the spline. So any of these we need to really put, so is valid. Okay, and then we have another one here. So we basically just continue putting is valid in, so that we check that these are actually valid at this point. As I said, we could say is pending kill, or whatever the function is that was, or destroyed, is being destroyed, right? We might actually need to use that, but what we'll do is we'll run it again and see what functions are still giving us an issue. I mean, it doesn't actually matter it wouldn't actually cause a major issue, but we don't want errors where we can avoid them. Okay, so if we stop this now, we're down to that many errors, okay, which isn't too bad at all. Right, so this is clearing spline points. Hey Dean, how are you? So we basically say is valid for basically everything, so that it's going to stop doing this stuff. If our spline becomes invalid. Okay. And again, we have to move this along a bit, which is fine. Then we need to add is valid and we can stick that there. So this can move along a bit, then pop in here, then this goes in here. Save that. Then we've got this branch here, and that's a standard macro, so that's not what we're looking for. And it's not that one. Okay, so we'll dismiss the errors. We shall close that and we shall try it again. As I said, all we're trying to do here is make sure that it's not erroring, so that we're clearing everything up before we continue. Okay, no errors. Okay, so as I said, at this point, I think at this point the best idea is to leave it as it is, because I'll explain to you why, right? It's because at this point here, right, we don't know where we are on the spline per se, right? So we don't know how far back. So when I click on this, you got to go back to here, and then it's at this point here that we're actually breaking, you know, we're colliding with something. And then we'd have to take it back to here before we're not. Okay? So we'd have to then calculate at which point on the spline does it actually collide with stuff. Whereas I think it's much more reasonable to say, right, just start again, because you've hit something, right? That makes for a far more logical thing. So we did get an error there. So we just need to check in here And again, we just basically do the same thing. So we can move that along. And we basically say is valid. Now, I was expecting a couple of errant ones that it didn't hit when I was building it before, or the timing of it wasn't quite right. And so we shall just basically tidy these up as we go. Okay. So the question must be now is what to fix next. Or do we move on to something completely different, right? Do we move on to doing some enemy stuff, enemy AI or things like that? And then which would in turn end up be working on not only enemy AI but our actual weapon AI and stuff. And apparently that's straight. So we'll leave it at that. Or do we continue to tweak our graphs? Right, I'll tell you what. There's one thing that I definitely need to fix. Now, if I join this up, that's all good. We are still going to have a look at this where it doesn't quite join up. Now, the strange thing is here, right, that this one does join up, right? And that is a weird one. Okay. But anyway, so the issue is here, if I hit G, right, we have our values. But if I hit the graph button, it doesn't work. Okay, so we can take a look at this and see what the issue is. So, how do we do that? Well, pretty straightforward really. We have to go to our FE controller and to the event graph, and this is our stats, and we are setting our chart widget. So basically we copy that, and this will be an easy fix. Then we go to our UI, and we actually need our buttons. Right, which I don't think is there. It's now, where is it again? Main game menu. Okay, so we go into our main button, and this basically does all the stuff. and this is the stats, and we paste that in there. And we grab the controller and we type stats, and we get the stat counter. We delete that. And we target that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag these three down just a little bit to there. And this goes in here. And then we do that. And then what we can do is we can duplicate this and plug that in there, and that becomes nothing. So we're setting that to nothing. Hey Kofi, how are you, mate? How you doing? So now our graph button should work in the game. Okay, and not just the little hotkey I made for it. And we shall try that again, because we did it wrong. And we need to set these up. We definitely need to do some defaults for them. Right, so now that that's going, right, we should be able to hit the stats button. And there we go. And if we hit the stats button again, it'll close. Okay. So now I can actually use the G button for something else that I'm going to test next, whatever that is. Okay, Jess, are you in the chat or not? I'll just give it a minute, see if Jess answers, if she is or not. Okay. So the interesting thing here is, right, let's try and work out where these should be drawn, okay? And then let's work out why it's not drawing exactly where we want. Okay, so if we stop this, well, let's have a look, check on our graph once more, and everything's working there. It's all good. Okay, we can do our 1 minute one. And that's working all good. Okay. Now, actually, you know what we could do? Right, see how this is at -2, right? It starts at -2. Well, it should actually start at 0, okay? And we took that code out because it was causing us problems. So let's actually fix that. Okay? So, back to the graphs. Once again. And that's the struct. So that's not what we want. Right, that's because that's in the UI. We don't want the UI. What we want is stats counter. Right. So here's the interesting part, right? When we return real-time data, okay, well, it isn't actually for that, it's the minute data, isn't it? Right. So at the moment, what we're doing is we are ignoring this data here. Right, sorry, this data here. And this is the data, right, for up to a minute. Okay? So, let's try and print that out first. Before we add it to the graph, let's check to see what it says. Okay? Now, that looks wrong. This should not break, because it has to check which ones are the seconds and which ones are not. Okay? So, I don't know why. Oh, it's kind of hung on me here. Because what we need to do here is we need to check if something is seconds, but if it's not, right, we need to still carry on, because these can be all mixed together. There isn't like there isn't even a way I can sort it in reverse that I can check, because it'll be creating new ones all the time, and they might not in fact be seconds, right? But then the next one that's created might be seconds, so we might have an index at 57 that isn't seconds, but one at 94 that is, right? So I need to check every single one of these. Okay? Now, what we could do is we could join these together to get this to be a bit tidier, right? So we can drag that down to there. We can delete this. We can join it directly. And then for this, we basically say and. Hey Dante, how are you, mate? So we say and. Then we join this to here. So if both of these are true, we can continue, right? And if they're not, we don't. Okay? And then for the data points, we basically add this, we count the array minimum minute 1, right? So we add it to the temp chart. So let's just test this. Let's go for it and see what happens, eh? Probably crash. But hey, if it crashes, well, what the heck? So yeah. So what we do is we get this. And then we add. Okay, now let's see what we actually add here. Right, so we're getting that. And the interesting thing here, well, okay, okie dokie. Right, so we're going down to here. Okay, and this thing here is only going to have one value. Okay, it's only going to have one array element. So we are basically going to say get a copy of 0 . Yeah, but the funny thing is, the stream is nothing about the rocket. I just, depending on what the stream's going to be about, if I've got something that's relevant, like say for example graphs, right? If I'm working on graphs, I'll normally pick one with the graphs in it, right? But if I want to swap it out, or if I don't have a screenshot of the thing it is, then I just pick anything. I just randomly pick something. So I'm afraid your rocket launcher was just a randomly picked picture. I hate to break it to you, but that's kinda how it works. Right, so we need quantity. Oh, actually, I'm talking bollocks. This actually needs to be, well, there was some, I'm still got to admit, there was something weird went on yesterday, right? Because at one point it was saying I had over 1,000 views, right? But by the end of the night, that had gone down by hundreds. So I'm still calling foul on that. Right, so that's okay. Well, you keep at it, man. And that's the time. Right, so this is going to be minus, it's actually going to be 0. Right? And this is actually going to go in here. This is going to go in here. And this is going to go here. This is actually going to go here. There we go. And we may as well do the other one, eh? While we're at it. Because it should be fundamentally the same thing. Right, so we just basically do an AND here. Then plug that in there. Then plug that in there. Then delete that. Drag this over here. So we'll save that. Then we'll plug it into the sequence. Okay. And then what we do is we basically just duplicate that. Okay. And when this is completed, we do this one. And instead of being array 1, it's array 2. And this number becomes 1. Sorry, minus 1. Okay. And let's see if this works. Now, I'm kind of expecting a crash here. I'm 50-50 on this, whether it'll work or not. Okay? I'm 50-50. It might just work, it might just not. Right, but we're going to have to get some data on the go here. So, because we're going to have to let it run for 2 minutes to get data out. So we may as well do this is another thing about you know, when you're this far into game development, right, it's kind of no longer fun to, or not certain, well, it's still fun, right, but it's nowhere near when you first start and you're excited and you're adding all these new ideas and doing all that stuff. When you're doing this testing, it quickly becomes quite laborious. Right, so here we go, stats. Right, so this is beginning to do stuff. And we shall check to see in a minute if we've got some values here. Okay. Now, I seriously think this is going to go mental. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's going to just lose its mind. Well, it kind of did something. It's kind of interesting. Do I need to do these the other way around or something? Or do I need to add these first? There is something going on. But what I think is, I need to find out right, see this number here? This should be total game time. get total game time. So if the total game time is 3 minutes and we're 120, yeah, so if the total game time minus the time is less than 61 is the way it should be. Okay, I'm going for that. And I'm going for the same thing here. Okay, so that is better. I think. Soon find out. But I'm thinking that's the way it should work. Okay. I've got Pierre, select that, select that. Hey Jamie, how you doing, mate? Right. So this is much easier. It's now much easier and less annoying to draw these conveyor belts, by the way. It's just far easier. Okay, so now we can add to this. And we can look at our graph. Sorry to hear. You're sorry to hear what, Jamie? I don't get it. I don't understand. Okay, so if we do the minute now, right, that's kind of interesting. Is it going to draw something? I think in the first instance, our yeah, that's looking kinda right-ish. Yeah, that's looking kinda right. Having said that, you'll notice it's not doing it at the 0. So it would appear there's no data coming in for the 0. I don't know if you're talking to somebody else or not, Jamie, because you're not making any sense. Right. So we'll hit that button a couple of times. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave this room for you guys to see it moving up and down and all weird stuff happening and all the rest of it. And I'm going to go and grab a cigarette. I shall be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere, guys. Check out the description, hit the like, subscribe, do all that stuff, Patreon, blah, blah, blah. And I shall be back in 2 minutes. Right, okay, we're back. We have got ourselves a tasty little whatchamacallit, milkshake. Right, so what have we got here? We've got something, but it doesn't look right. Because at the end of the day, this should be kind of going up with minute 2, right? So what I'm thinking is, we've kind of got this in the wrong order. Okay, so what I'm going to do is some weird stuff. So I'm actually going to grab this and put it there, right? Then I'm going to remove that, and then when this is complete, I'm going to put it up here somewhere. Right, hang on a second. Right, I've got that. What's... Oops. Undo, undo, undo. Right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to do that. Now, does this clear? Yeah, so that's kind of right. Okay, we create the chart data. Yeah. Well, actually, we could do it this way. We could drag that into there, and then when that's completed, we go into there. Right, we can move that around. Yeah, Dante, I don't know what Jamie's talking about. I think he's hallucinating or something. Or he's thinking he's talking to somebody else and typing in the wrong chat or something. Okay, so this needs to go back in here. Right? Now, okay. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. Right, so we've got time 0 and we've got time -1. Okay, so that should be right, because in there we're putting time 0 and that will be time -1. Okay, so it looks to me at the moment Oh, I think I know what he's talking about now. Right, okay, here's the story. Here's the story. This is what I think he's talking about. He said to me, he was talking last night and asked me to give him a job to do, right? So I said, make a smelter, right? And I gave him a couple of pictures of real life smelters to give him an idea what the hell I'm talking about. And then he said, I'll make you a model, right? So I didn't know his skill level in Blender. So I was expecting something pretty impressive. Okay? Now, as I said, I don't know his skill level. So I was thinking it was higher than it was, maybe. And when he sent me a picture of it, I kind of brushed it off and said, that's kind of basic. In comparison to what I was expecting, right? As I said, I don't know his skill level, so if he'd have said, yeah, that's fine, I'm just saying, that's the story, right? So I'd expected more, but I don't know what skill level you're on. I didn't say it was finished. Right, I'm not criticising you for it, I'm giving them the context of those comments above, okay? So, anyway. And yes, by the way, I do have a son. So, if we just do this, we're just going to get the bauxite stuff, right? Because we're only going to be generating bauxite. So, if we look at the graph for the bauxite, and then we up, then we do our there. I mean, the interesting point here is the fact that we're getting two lines, right? But that really shouldn't be 5, I don't think. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to breakpoint. I'm going to add to breakpoint. Okay. And my problem here that's true. I've got 110, right? Now, in theory, if and if this is less than 110, right, this calculation isn't quite right. Okay, so we're gonna have to check this to find out what our calculation is actually saying, so we're going to have a print string as per usual, and we're going to have an append as usual. Then the append is going to be in here. Now I think I know what this calculation is going to have to be in the end, now that I've thought about it, but we'll just check it anyway, right? So we'll save that for the moment, and we're going to add our big long, oh, we're not going to do that, we're going to do that so that it goes in the middle somewhere, and we're going to do that for 5 seconds, and we'll do that. Okay, so let me just explain what I'm expecting to find here, and then how we actually change it to make it do the correct calculation, okay? So we can actually remove this, and we can use this as a total game time, right? Just killed a mosquito. Just absolutely obliterated it, thank God. It won't be messing with me again. Right, so first of all we want game time, right, add pin, then we're going to add this, and we'll move this up a bit. So then we'll have some space, and then we'll say recorded at then space, then we add another number, and then we put this time here, okay? Then we do this, and we do that. Then when we're finished, we can just delete all this and join that back up, and we should be fine, right? But in the meantime, if so what we're doing here, right, let's say we create a box site within the first minute, okay? So what does that actually mean in equation terms? So if we say the game time, right, that's going to be, let's say we're at a minute, okay? And we made it at 15 seconds, okay? then what we end up with is that's going to be 60. So if 60 is less than 15, which is obviously going to be false, right? So it's actually going to be the game time minus the time is less than 60. Yeah? So if the game time minus this time, so basically what we do here is we say that minus this time, and then we say if this is less than 60. Okay? And we basically do the same over here. So we get the total game time, then we remove this, and we say if this minus this, then we say is greater than 60. And in fact, with this one, we just say 61. We could say greater than or equal to, but 61 will do. Right, so that gives us the first minute. This gives us the second minute. Okay? So we plug that in there, and that should be us. Now, if this is now correct, right, we should be able, we should see the right values, and we should see it making sense over here. So if we bring up our chart, right, and we add a little bit to it, and we shall disable these breakpoints so that it just prints out what we want to see. Right, disable and run. So game time 35 recorded at 30. Okay, but we're not getting anything at 0 here. Okay, we should always be getting stuff here. Right? So that's fine. So that's time 0, quantity 1, quantity minus 1. How's that? Oh yeah. Oh no. Oh no 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 no. No no no. That should not be -1. We should not be multiplying that by -1, that's for sure. This one's right. Okay. So let's have a look at this again, and need to get this motoring. And yeah, didn't like that much. Didn't like that much. I don't know what's going on there actually. What's going on? Bit bizarre, but anyway. Right, so now we can hit L, 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 and we can bring up our graph. Okay. And now well, this is bizarre. It's got to be said. Now, if we remember earlier on, no, that's outside, mate. That's outside, not my kids. Considering the age I am, I don't think my kids would be out playing. Right, so when that's complete, we do that. Okay. Now, the interesting thing here is what we should really do is delete that, drag this over to like here, right, so that we can see which ones are actually getting processed. Okay, so that should go there, and that should go there. Save that and try this again, and we'll see what's getting processed. Okay, so we go L, 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 then we hit G, okay, right, so this is right because Or no, it's not. Oh, did I not pause that? Yeah, I did. Let's do that again, right? And let's see the values. It's 85, 25. Right, so that's correct. Right, so these should gradually go up, right? There should be 12 valued, 3, 6, 9, 12. So that's correct. There should always be 12 values in here, right? So the other thing is, that this value here, the quantity should always be going up. Okay? And for the case of bauxite, it's going to be, so we're going to do another print string, right? And we'll do it here. And it's going to be this plus this. So it's going to go in there, right? So what we should see is this number going up. Right? Now, when we come in here, yeah, it's clearing that. Right, so that should equal nothing again. So let's try that. And we'll see where we're going with this. Okay, so we shall and graph in minute. Okay, so we should see some numbers now. Right, so we're definitely getting the numbers there, right? 16. Now, this should go up to, well, basically 12 times 5, if we're producing 5 at a time, right? So this should be like 30, yep, 35. It's 41, it's 43. So if we hit L a couple more times, right, it should get us to 60. Right, so we're up to 50. 51, 53, 54, 'I believe that's 56, 57, 60. Right? So it's definitely given us the right number. Okay? Oh, there's the interesting thing. It's because there's no value at 1. To start with. Right, so it doesn't. The value at a minute now, this is going to go up as well. Let's see how this looks. So at the 3-minute mark, so at the minute mark, this should be like at the same. This should gradually basically end up like a straight line across here. Right? The interesting thing is when our 2 minutes ago hit 60, right, we'll be able to compare. This should go up all the way. I think it's because right, so 2 minutes is still going up. Yeah, there we go. And then 2 minutes goes down. I'm still not 100% sure why it doesn't go like that and then straight down. Right, because that's what should really happen. Right? So what I'll do is we shall do the exact same thing here and see what the numbers are for this. Right? Except we'll do it as a, well, I'll do it as the usual blue colour, I suppose. Right, so this should be interesting, right? Because at the moment I don't know what these values are, but I know what they should be. Okay? Now, in the first instance, it ain't going to do anything. Right? So yeah, it ain't printing them. Okay? So it's not printing out the blue ones, which is what I expect at this point. It gets to the point where you're thinking, is it even worth the bother to do the 0 to 2? You know what I mean? Now, after we get to our minute, right, once this moves up, we should start getting blue values in here. And there's our first blue value. Now, the interesting thing is this number's not really going up. It should be like this, 55, 60, 65. So, I assume that there's something going on in this second part that's going on here. So this is absolutely bizarre. Right, I don't know why this isn't printing anymore. And this isn't printing anymore. Oh yeah, it is down there. Now, if we see here, that actually flickered. Right, so this is all bizarre. Because this should be counting up the same as this. Okay? And it's simply not. Well, this is weird. Okay, hang on a second here. that should go in there. Right, we need to think about this. Because we're not adding the first value. Right, all we're doing we're not adding the first value. But it is weird. So, what we'll do, we'll save that for now. So, in here, we add this, we add this, and we do this as well. No worries, mate. I just honestly didn't know what skill level he was at. So, kind of the way he was talking, I kind of got the idea that he was more advanced than he was, so I was quite surprised when he showed me the picture. Maybe I wasn't very tactful about it. Right, so that should be like that. Even though it's a bit messier now, we can actually tidy it up, but that's the way it should be. So, if we add a new one, we've still got to add it with the quantity, right? So, basically, we're going to do the same up here. Right, so we grab this, duplicate it, then we can bring it down here. But as I said, this kind of becomes almost pointless in the graph, right? That goes in there. That goes in there. Okay. All right. Okay. Whatever. Grab that in there. Okay. Right. Let's have a look at this. I'm hoping this is now a bit better. few L's, then get to our graph, hit that. Right, now I kind of understand why it doesn't do anything just now, right? Because it's only got one point, and it probably doesn't know where to connect it to, so it basically doesn't connect it to anything. Okay, but once we've got another 3, we should be starting to do something. Okay, so there we go. Right, so the first set of values coming out in white is correct. Okay, but there's still something not right. Are we printing out the wrong thing here? Well, we shouldn't be. Right, the point being here, right, is that the first time it goes through this, it's right. But then this should basically end up saying 60 all the time, right? And then this one should start low and then should end up saying 60 all the time. Okay? So like all of these values here like should all be 60. Or should they, in fact? No, they should all be 5. This is correct. They should all be 5. Right, but yeah, those should all be 5, but they should be adding on to the right index. Right, so when we're setting this array, we should be setting array 2 to the right thing. Okay, so if we click on the controller and then the game stack counter, then we probably need to make these visible in the editor so I can look at them, right? But I think what we'll do is we'll leave that for tonight. So if you've enjoyed the stream, all the guys who have came in today, who normally I see, it's great to have you back again. For those that are new, hit the subscribe button, like button, and check out the description for Discord and Patreon and previous game on Steam. And I shall see you all in 4 hours time. So bye bye for now.